Most of you knew my mom as a colleague and a friend. I obviously had a slightly different knowledge of my mom as her daughter. Whatever the nature of the relationship we each might have shared with her, I believe the common denominator is that she was one of those rare human beings who had impact both on people and on our world. For the next few minutes, I'd like to share some examples of the impact that I believe my mom had. But first, a bit of Edith 101. Like all of us, what many of you saw and knew of my mother in her adult life was shaped in her early years. My mom was born on March 28, 1931, in a small town between Moose Jaw and Swift Current, Saskatchewan, called Herbert. Edith, along with her twin sister, my Aunt Linda, were the second youngest children of my grandparents, William and Catherine. She spent her childhood and youth on her family's farm in Herbert. Early childhood was not easy. It was the height of the Depression, and my grandparents worked hard to care for their large family and to create a better life for them. My mom, like her siblings, excelled at a variety of things. One of the talents that I got to observe, obviously later in life, was her public speaking ability. This was one of those talents that apparently started to reveal itself rather early in her life. In fact, I always remember her telling me that she shocked her parents when she learned to talk, and apparently was rather loquacious, long before she was even able to walk. I'm sure many of you can vouch for her ability to hold an audience and have an hour-long telephone conversation. My mom also enjoyed sports and excelled at certain ones. She played softball as a teenager and was back catcher on her school team. And despite some physical challenges over the years with her MS, she continued to try new sports and activities. I remember fondly an adventure in golf with my mom and my dad's brother and a friend of his, notwithstanding the fact that her golf score looked more like a banner bowling score. She soldiered through the round and was ready to try again. This was one of many great lessons for me on hard work and how to learn from those things that you may not succeed at initially. Like her siblings, she also excelled at academics. Her grade 12 marks showed her incredible affinity for maths and sciences, with A's across the board in algebra, geometry, trigonometry, chemistry, and biology. Oddly enough, though, her Achilles heel academically was home economics. This is funny to me because as a teenager, I often thought, as many teenagers do, that surely I must be adopted. This person couldn't possibly be my mother. However, the 62% grade that she received in home economics seems to be all the irrefutable proof that I needed that we're definitely biologically related. My mom often mentioned that she wished she could have gone to medical school. Unfortunately, in the early 50s, it was still rare for women to enter medical school. So she took her love of sciences and the hard work ethic instilled in her during her years in Herbert to nursing school in Winnipeg. She entered Grace Hospital Nursing School, an experience I know which shaped her professional life in many ways. And even though circumstances dictated that she couldn't pursue the medical or graduate education that she so longed for, she applied her focus in yen for learning throughout her life and later getting a management certificate. During her time in nursing school, two important things happened. First, she had her initial experience with the MS, which clearly influenced but never overtook her life. Despite her own physical challenges, she overcame them and graduated nursing school. The other thing was that she met my dad during this time. Though they were so very different in many ways, and their journey was often challenging, my dad was able to help my mom learn how to laugh more and to realize it was okay to not always be quite so serious. It was also important in making sure that my brother and I are both here today. Clearly, focus was not something that my mom lacked. It was that focus that was an example to my brother and to me so many times, as well as to many others. In her work life, she applied that focus, combined with a very pragmatic intelligence, to help her rise to the senior administrative ranks of the major teaching hospitals in Winnipeg, as well as to senior leadership roles in a number of international nursing professional organizations. It was clear to anyone she worked with that my mom loved her work. She enjoyed helping people and was committed to making a difference, a theme I'll return to shortly. She always enjoyed the collegiality of her workplace and the sense of belonging she got from the nursing organizations. My mom loved to travel, which her involvement in NACOG and ACOG organizations allowed her to do, at least within North America. But mostly what she loved about being part of any team was meeting and getting to know people. My mom was truly the embodiment of a people person. Young or old, she always had a way of putting people at ease and establishing connection. She had an earnestness that helped engender trust in people almost instantly. I'm sure even those who she might have clashed with, and yes, she did have a bit of a temper, would always say that they knew where they stood with her. My mom spoke her mind, but her opinions and her feelings were genuine, and she was never afraid to own them. All of these traits made her a leader, teacher, mentor, and friend to many. I mentioned her commitment to helping people. As a nurse for nearly 40 years, this is clearly an important attribute to have. But my mom's commitment to helping people went beyond the obvious. My mom had a sense of empathy for those who were vulnerable. She was committed to caring for and providing a voice for those who often did not have one. Children, babies, and people who could not always easily speak for themselves. It was she who instilled in my brother and I our sense of fair play and righteous indignation at any injustices in the world. When I was a child, she was the one who always reminded me how important it was to make the little girl or little boy who perhaps didn't quite fit in to feel part of something. My mom was always about inclusivity, and in that way, again, she truly was the embodiment of a people person. As I got older, her commitment to caring for and helping people was revealed to me in many different ways. I watched her mentor and lead many people in their professional and personal lives, including my friends. As a teenager, I was often aware of how different my mom was from a number of the other moms. She was a bit older than most, and she had this professional job where she led a number of people and she traveled for work. As I got into my early 20s, I became increasingly aware of the capacity that my mom had to influence and touch people in often very subtle ways. On more than one occasion, she gave shelter and advice to my friends who were experiencing personal challenges. They seemed genuinely at ease with her and readily trusted her to listen without judgment. Many of them sought her out for advice. Moreover, her profile as a professional and leader in her field became a model of what was possible for all of us as young women entering the professional world. Her children, her relatives, and her friends all knew Edith for her warmth and generosity. She was always the person who had a gift for a new baby or was the one to bake cookies or goodies for people at Christmas. She could also be counted on to call someone who was lonely or to visit people when they needed it most. She always had this sixth sense when someone needed a hug or a kind word. Nobody had to tell her, she just knew. It's really challenging to try to capture the essence of 81 years in a few minutes. Mom, hopefully I've done you the justice you so richly deserve. You taught me so much throughout the years about focus, about fortitude, and that real women do like a good glass of single malt scotch. But probably the most important lesson was about how to live a life with grace, as you so frequently displayed it during the many tough circumstances you faced in your life. On behalf of all of us, thank you for the gifts you shared with us, Mom. We love you very much and we'll miss you greatly. At this point, I'd like to ask my uncle, Robert Suter, if he could come and read a few words from my cousins.
Linda, normally, that's Edith's twin, sitting in the front row. Linda normally speaks for herself, but this morning, under the circumstances, she asked that I try. Actually, what I'm doing is bringing a remembrance written by our daughter on her Facebook page the day that she found out about Edith's death. She would be a little reluctant to approve reading this directly in this circumstance. She's a third-grade teacher. She has respect for grammar and things that don't necessarily get into Facebook posting, so I'm going to extract some things from that. Her brother and his family are here in the front row also. I'm reading this as a reflection of another generation's take on the nature of Edith Parker. From Beth Suter Rayburn. To my dear Aunt Edith, while we were not expecting your sudden departure from this world, we rejoice that you are no longer fighting the pain and other issues from your lifetime battle with MS. You lived a wonderful life of service for your mothers and their babies. You were a loving mother. You were a loving sister, sister-in-law, aunt, and friend to so many. I will remember you especially as my mom's dear twin sister, as my aunt who always sent those wonderful Christmas packages from faraway Winnipeg. I remember special children's books. I remember dishes and cups. I remember your reputation as a strong leader. I remember your crazy cats. I remember you as an aunt who loved such nice things, and how you loved to share those things. We have so many memories, many of them shaped from a distance, but shaped by visits here in Winnipeg and by reciprocal visits of Edith and her family to Ohio. Thank you, Aunt Edith.